Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
This is what you see is what is to come. It's the first time you see the Space Center Wellness Center. These systems can reach man in the deepest part of the universe. As you can see, the transmutation and transportation of the soul and the physicality is within the system. And you will see each system on its own. It can reach all conditions of unwellness of the body of the man operated by doctors. It is part of the space program. And for the first time, we show what is to come. And these machines have been operating for past 12 months. We know how they work. And some of you who've been to LINS sat in some of these systems. Now they've been positioned as one of the first wellness centers in the world. Now you see the future of wellness, feeding, and making peaceful man out of the man. In this center, in coming months, hundreds of these units will be installed. And more or less anyone in the world can reach. As you can see, there is room enough to add huge number, and the doctors will monitor everything remote. This is more or less the hospitals of tomorrow, with no patients.
And welcome everyone to the Keshe American Knowledge Team for December 24th, 2023. It's our weekly program where we usually review the workshops, new points Mr. Keshe has brought up, and so on and so forth. We're coming, of course, to a new understanding of Mitra and this bringing of the light, and how the Christmas used to be on the 21st 3 centuries ago, but it was moved to create some point of separation. Mr. Keshe seemed to indicate the separation was the think good, speak good, and do good. That's what accounts for the 23rd, the 24th, and the 25th. But this idea of the days becoming longer and man walking out of this darkness or this ignorance about himself. And that's what a lot of this workshop was about, us to understand the truth about ourselves and realizing who we are. He's unraveling some of the deepest secrets, how to conduct yourself, of course, in transmutation. And then, as we do with children, teach them the alphabet. Then they start forming words with that, and then they make that into sentences. So we're just understanding that we don't need the religions. He said there's no place and no point for religion. So, of course, they would disagree, because as people begin to understand what this season is about, and enlightenment, I think, is the point that the Keshe Foundation is trying to take us through, trying to realize this enlightenment about even the Creator does the transmutation. We used to just say, I made the man in the image of myself, but in this workshop, he's saying you, the Creator, transmuted into you. As we've heard, I am you as you are I. So this whole process, again, a misunderstanding on our part, especially with the three wise men, where the Christians missed all the gifts. I think it was intentional. And of course, those three gifts from the three wise men from Persia are the thinking good, speaking good, and doing good, which is the ethos of Mitra, the ethos of the Creator, in a way, I believe. And this is the sort of ethos we need to go into space and to interact in that sort of dimension, and that we don't want to offend, and continue to operate under this ethos of Mitra. That's what I experienced on Friday. One of the things was the idea that I need to take this understanding, and everywhere I go, in every position and place. It's easy to say it. It's not so easy to do it. But starting off, even if it's a complicated situation or a situation I don't like, but to keep thinking good about it, and to keep speaking good about it, and of course to keep doing good in that individual situation, because this is the ethos we're going to carry with us from now until eternity, I suppose. So we might as well start learning how it works, learning to practice it. And again, as I said, it's not as easy as saying it, but again, it's up to you as an individual to operate in that sort of ethos, which will make your trips into the universe much more enjoyable, and probably a lot longer lasting than if you do offend in any of these sort of areas. We don't understand it fully, but we certainly understand what thinking good means, and what speaking good means, and what doing good means. I don't think anyone has to have it explained to them in a way. So this is where we're going in this understanding of the bringing of the light. It's not so much about the days getting longer and so on, even though that's sort of an example of it. But again, it's man walking out of the darkness of his own misunderstanding of who he is in the universe. So we're going to cover a bit of that today. Of course, we always start with the World Peace Treaty, and that's where we're going to start with today. But this is an open roundtable session. Everyone has a microphone. If you'd like to contribute or make a point or share with us anything you'd like to share, that's great, because we all learn from each other. And it's going to take all of us to unravel this knowledge, even more than all of us, let's say. So I thought we'd go more into these sessions. Again, for me, I was thinking this ethos, this is what came to me as a point of enlightenment, perhaps, but I've also felt energies in that last session. Interestingly, I had a flowing of energy between my knee and my hip on my right leg. And then about 20 minutes later, my toe, the big toe on my left foot, was tingling in the same sort of manner that you experience it in the head. I really haven't had any experiences in the body, and hopefully we're connecting the physicality with the soul. And that's what I was thinking, that another piece or another part has been added. It's like making a very fine watch. You have to sort of add the pieces in very carefully and make sure they're working before you go to the next piece. So I think this is what's happening in a lot of these sessions. And of course, the sessions are going to continue, and that's what we'll concentrate a little bit on today. Anyone want to share anything if they were in that experience on the 22nd of meeting the lover, becoming the lover, learning how to love, feeling the love, passing it on to others in a way? If you'd like to share anything, please feel free. We're all ears, as is said sometimes. Okay, so we're going to go to the World Peace Treaty, which is, again, you saw the wellness systems, and he concludes by the idea of making a peaceful creature out of the man and to find this peace. And this is something in the matter state called the World Peace Treaty that the religious leaders will eventually sign, the world leaders will sign, and I think all of us will begin to realize the importance of this simple yet deep document. Called the World Peace Treaty. You can find it on the Keshe Foundation store. You can download it, you can print it out, you can hand it out. And it's really for people to acknowledge this peace within themselves. We know the lion and the lamb will eat and sleep in the same nest. And it's that soul of physicality that's trying to, in a way, understand things as the soul understands it. But to get these two souls, the soul of the man and the soul of physicality, to start working together. And this is part of it, finding peace within yourself, finding peace on the planet with all the other entities that have been created, or all these other beauties that have been created. And then, of course, extending that into the universal community, where you'll probably be spending a lot more of your time, but we'll have to see. Actually, he was saying you can create these energies within the brain, and you don't have to move the physicality anywhere unless you're going for a full transmutation. But the World Peace Treaty is, again, it's between you and your soul. So we'll just read it. Would anyone like to read the World Peace Treaty? I'm sure we've all signed it. We, as citizens of the earth from this moment on, accept to lay down all tools of aggression and war. We shall never think about getting involved or incite war or develop or use any tools of war on this planet or in space. And to this, we all agree and swear with R, and you can delete as appropriate, whether it's for your nation, your territory, council, religion, your city, your town, a body, or another soul. Simply put your name, your signature, the date, position held, and then again, on behalf of the nation, the territory, the council, the religion, the city, the town, or as an individual, have it witnessed. After signing this treaty, be proud to display this certificate wherever you consider being important to you, that everyone can see and know your ethos to fellow men and the mankind and the other created beauties of Creator. And again, when it says this ethos, this is what we're trying to understand. It's just a way of behaving or a collective way of thinking. And we know that comes back to the thinking good, speaking good, and doing good. I think it provides quite a bit of shielding for anyone who takes up this idea and starts practicing it, that you don't get stuck in certain fields or in the wrong way of looking at other things in your environment. And it's something that each one of us has to practice on our own. I certainly can't control your emotions, and you certainly can't control mine. So this is an individual task in a way. And collectively, as we use this, we become stronger. This is the way I'm seeing it. But it's a very simple document, and this is the one the world leaders will sign. So bringing man to this peaceful condition is not the end all of everything on this planet, of course, but it's the first step in going into and interacting, I think, with the universal community. What we've been doing is we've been reading, we talk about world peace, and we have this paper from the Chinese government, which was released in September, I think September 23rd of this year, and we've been reading little pieces of it, a global community of shared future, China's proposals and actions. And we know the BRICS, this belt and group of nations, are going forward in development, but peace is also part of it. I think Mr. Keshe's trips into China in the teens, in the 17, 18, 19 area period, has laid down some of this work or some of this understanding, and this is where we are now. We're moving into something along this line. Again, this is something in the matter state, but it does make quite a bit of sense that we should all be working together. We're much stronger when we do. And this is the way we're going to move into the one planet, one nation, one race for world peace. So we're going to continue reading this paper. I think it's a beautiful work. And again, it encompasses quite a bit of the ethos of the Keshe Foundation, if not all of it. So we're going to read just the 4 paragraphs here, and we'll continue next week with number 4 there for direction and path. Would anyone like to read this? It's a very simple document, but very profound. And this is what we've been working for, the cooperation and collaboration of the nations to move into that one nation planet. And of course, it'll make it a lot easier as people start transmuting. You don't have to go through immigration and all the rest of it, and the borders and so on and so forth. We know the fish and the birds, they don't have anything like that. And so we shouldn't either, especially as we're going to start moving in quite a profound way, or unravel this mystery of the centuries, let's say, about this transmutation. Even though we've been doing it in the dream state, we're going to start doing it consciously. So without borders, it'll make the whole process. I know this is one of the things the governments don't want to dissolve, is the borders. Apparently, there's a lot of control and so on and so forth. But incorporating the outstanding achievements of other civilizations, the concept of a global community of shared future incorporates the best of cultures of enduring appeal and impact that have transcended time, space, and national borders in human history. It crystallizes the shared values of people from different regions, cultures, ethnic backgrounds, and with different religious beliefs. It draws on the outstanding achievements of cultural integration between diverse civilizations. It embodies the common aspiration of all humanity. All civilizations around the world have manifestations of the concept of a global community of shared future. Ancient Greek philosophers conducted primary research on this concept based on city-states, believing that humanity as one community should act in concert to pursue common interests, and thus must live in harmony. Ancient Indian literature records the motto of, quote, under heaven, one family. The African philosophy of Ubuntu holds that I am because we are, emphasizing interdependence of humanity. The concept of a global community of shared futures reflects the common interests of all civilizations: peace, development, unity, coexistence, and win-win cooperation. A Russian proverb holds, together we can weather the storm. The Swiss-German writer Hermann Hesse proposed, serve not war and destruction, but peace and reconciliation. A German proverb reads, an individual's effort is addition. A team's effort is multiplication. An African proverb states, one single pillar is not sufficient to build a house. An Arab proverb asserts, if you want to walk fast, walk alone. If you want to walk far, walk together. Mexican poet Alfonso Reyes wrote, the only way to be profitably national is to be generously universal. An Indonesian proverb says, sugarcane and lemongrass grow in dense clumps. A Mongolian proverb concludes, neighbors are connected at heart and share a common destiny. All the above narratives manifest the profound cultural and intellectual essence of the world. In building a global community of shared futures, all countries should observe the widely acknowledged norms of international relations. Since the advent of modern times, a fair and equitable international order has been the long-standing goal of all humanity. From the principle of equity and sovereignty established by the Peace of Westphalia in 1648 to international humanitarianism established by the Geneva Convention in 1864, then to the 4 purposes and 7 principles established by the Charter of the United Nations in 1945, and later to the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence proposed at the Bandung Conference in 1955. These norms of international relations have evolved into widely recognized principles and become the essential foundation of a global community of shared futures. I think we'll stop there. But again, a beautiful paper put together asking us to think about our collective responsibilities to each other, to the planet, to peace, to development, and the rest of it. And this sort of fits very beautifully into our interactions with the universal community because we have the sort of same actions going forward, that we can interact, we can intermarry, we can create new creatures of the Creator by this process as well. So we're learning quite a bit, but to go into a peaceful environment, we must be peaceful, or we must carry this ethos of Mitra, the thinking good, the speaking good, and the doing good. And I was so astounded when I realized the Christians have missed the 3 gifts. I said, how could we miss it? It was right in the book. We read it. It was precious oils. It was maybe precious metals. It was precious incense. It says it right there. But apparently it was changed from the original meaning, from the 3 kings of Persia or the 3 wise men, about this thinking good, speaking good, and doing good. So hopefully you can all incorporate this into your behaviors, into your way of operation more and more as we start to transmute into the universal community. It will be part of your ethos to operate this way. And of course, this is the way the Creator operates. This is the ethos the Creator operates by. So we're trying to internalize this. As I said twice, this will be the 3rd time. It's easier said than done. As you start to practice this, I think you'll find it out more and more and perfect it. And I think the systems that we're using, as you saw the wellness system in the monthly sessions, is helping to create a peaceful man out of the man, in a way, or realizing where you've come from and who you are. You actually, he's not saying you're part of the Creator, he's saying the Creator transmuted into you. You are the Creator, or part of a creation process. But again, the Creator has done the transmutation, and now you are the Creator. And so this is something that the religions have not wanted you to find out. You were everything but the Creator. You needed to get into a certain heaven or a certain place, and you could only do it by whatever they sort of told you the way was. But now we know, we understand that we are the creator, and we're going to start working with the ethos of the creator and Mitra, which is one and the same in a way. Any comments from anyone? Otherwise, we're going to go to the workshop and we're going to hear. I thought we'd, again, what's happening is the transmutation preparation sessions are being set up. And I think it'll be the third Friday of every month. And these sessions may last for 6 hours, 8 hours, or even longer. So there'll be a lot of work being done. And he said it's going to take your entire Friday. So there's a lot of processing. Perhaps you were just getting touched in a way by some of the initial sessions, and now they're going a little bit deeper into allowing you to realize who you really are and some of the capabilities you're capable of manifesting, and to start practicing this. So this is what's coming up, but I thought we'd go to the part after the break in the workshop where Mr. Keshe explained a little bit about the session last month, but I think last week, but it applies to all of the sessions, especially the quietness. So let's just perhaps we'll listen to this and then go to another part. And what he did say is you have different experiences with different amounts of headphones. So I had 2 headphones, 1 headphone will work, but apparently the more, up to 4, I think, will give you a totally different experience than if you just have 1 or 2. And I haven't experienced that. I've just had the 2 headphones, but I've still experienced energies, I think, moving throughout my body that aren't usually there in a normal day's events, but seem to manifest themselves when you're in these sessions. And I just keep thinking more and more parts are being added to this very, it's not that it's being added, perhaps it's opening up to the realization that you have the capabilities, or many of these things are already built within you as you are the creator. So let's see if we can go to this. Maybe we'll bring up the let me move this over here. So we're going to play this and we'll look at the text, I think, at the same time. Feel free to stop at any point you'd like to make a comment or share something you think others need to hear. Again, we're very open about this. No one seems to have all the knowledge, but we're slowly moving into more and more of an understanding, a universal understanding of how things operate in the universe, rather than just trying to figure out how things operate on this planet.
Nothing changed. We just, as usual, few announcements, which are usual with us. A lot of you join us tomorrow in the celebration of birth of Mitra, in a way to love. And loving is giving. And there's a reason for this, that in trying to learn how to give, you learn how to start the process of transmutation. As you let part of you to become or be given to another position, that in a way is the first phase of what we call loving, becoming part of the process of the transmutation of loving to give. That in essence it becomes another seed for another soul, or adds to another soul. This session tomorrow will be amazing for those of you who go through the process, and it'll change many of your lives if you're touched by it. If you don't feel it or don't feel the totality, then it's maybe time to mature to another level, that one day you'll reach to that point. But it'll change those of you who touch, you will touch the love of the Creator and Mitra. You understand what it means truly to be loved, to be in love, and to give from. It's one of the few sessions I'm looking forward to see how and what we see, how and how things will take shape, and how we shall see the totality. At the same time, to follow with this process, that we start making people to ready as knowledge seekers for the process of transmutation. Keshe Foundation has announced in the past day or two the setting up of the 6-session, third Friday of every month till June, of what we call whole day transmutation sessions, which means we start around about 9-10 o'clock every Friday, third week of the month. And it lasts maybe 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, but it'll take a whole day of you. And you learn the process of the phase of what we call the loving and the extension of to start becoming the transmuted and to be able to transmute. Somewhere around March, April, we bring in the work of the satellites.
So these upcoming sessions, what they're talking about, and we showed it in the store here, is the transmutation preparation sessions. And apparently these sessions, as he said, could be 6, 8, or 10 hours long. So there'll be a lot of work going on in these sessions. It's up to you, of course, to sign up for them if you can. Sign up for one, you can sign up for many. I think there's a discount if you sign up for all of them simultaneously. But there's some deep work, it appears, going on there. They're just not wasting their time for 6, or you're not just wasting your time for 6 or 8 hours in a session. So plan to block out a good 3/4 of the day, perhaps, or 8 hours at least of the day if you're going to sign up for these transmutation preparation sessions.
And we train you to be ready to be in that position and time and place. There are those who joined us with the travelers. They join in this part from beginning of next year. So whatever we set up in the past now start coming in. Once the soul learn how to transmute, those of you who became satellite, you become those posts. It's very much, I want to go from here to New York. Those who are satellites, you make sure through your soul, you will understand it very clearly, that the soul travel with the purity of purity. In a way, you become the filter, you become the direction and position of the direction of the soul. You will feel this. Many of you as satellites will find out you'll come under a lot of freedom of the soul. You will feel the change in you. And as more and more souls transmute in the direction of understanding, you become part of that process. Then we'll see. In the time when the knowledge seekers start the transmutation in the universal dimension, the work and the conduct of the soul of those who became satellites and universal councils will come into operation. We expect this sometimes by the end of the year, as more and more mature. It was very interesting to see that on the last Friday session, how many of you gathered to be there to do. And some of you wanted to be in, just doesn't matter what it was, just to be part. So the process of the transmutation, in essence, training for you to become the passengers of the universe, will start in January. We accept very few limited people for this because you lot tend to make a lot of noise and make it impossible for us to control. So if you come in, please try even tomorrow to keep your noise down. Try to, that we don't need to switch you off. We had to.
Right, and if you do come into these sessions, just turn your microphone down to a very low setting, and you can still hear what's being said, but at the same time, it sort of cancels out some of the noises in your background. So that's one of the things I found out, was to turn your mic to a lower setting so it doesn't amplify any of your bumping or scratching or coughing, sneezing, and the rest of it that goes on in the background. But I would say the last session was very, very controlled, and most people were very good with their microphones. As you come into these sessions, you realize more and more the importance of it. He says it's not fair, and he talks about the stealing of time from the others, or that everyone had to reset because of the noises being made. So there's something very important. I know Mr. Keshe doesn't like to be disturbed when he's delivering a knowledge seekers workshop. Many times he said, we have an open mic, please close it, and then they did away with most of the mics, so that's not been a problem anymore. But something is being downloaded to you in a way, and apparently noises can create some sort of distraction where everyone sort of goes back into the physicality in a way, he says. Let's listen to more of this.
Do this to a lot of people last week, and it's not nice because you interrupt, and sometimes the noises are so much that are literally disturbed. We see it on our graphs. Everybody has to start from zero because they have to come back to the dimension of physicality and start again. And sometimes it takes a long time for those of you who shout at each other or whatever you do, you leave your microphone, you know it's open, to bring everybody to zero. Thou shalt not steal. You're stealing from the time. From now on, when you join in, please make sure you don't fall asleep, because we get a lot of snorers, and then we affect the soul. There's a reason sometimes some of you.
I've fallen asleep in some of the earlier sessions, but whatever reason, it was a beautiful experience. Even going to sleep, he said you reached the land of the lovers. So I think you've had that experience once or twice. I've had it a number of times in these sessions, but in the last few sessions, I haven't had that experience again of falling asleep. I've been quite awake for them. So he goes on to explain that actually it's not bad falling asleep, because you're actually being fed certain things to bring you into a certain type of balance. We don't understand this whole process really. We're just listening, and that's what he said. That's all you had to do, was to listen. And of course, they're adjusting things in the background. They're bringing systems in, they're shutting systems off. I don't know what is actually going on there. I'm sure it'll be explained in the future.
As knowledge seekers, you are very quiet, but I switch you off, I mute you, or during the process, I open your microphone, because we are aware of you as a soul and what your soul will add to us. Or it needs elevation, it needs gathering, it needs bringing in. The reason I switch, or we switch, those of you who make noise off, in a way at that point you're receiving more to get back into normality of the condition of the rest as a group. So everything is not disadvantage, but its advantages on its own, but sometimes you disturb even on the mute condition. So
I don't know how you're disturbing under mute conditions, but this is what he seems to be pointing to. So it's actually advantage. You're receiving more if you do fall asleep, but he's encouraging you not to fall asleep in the sessions. But you are receiving more to get you back into normality of the condition of the rest as a group. So there's even things going on when you're sleeping in these sessions. Let's continue.
please, for tomorrow's session, for the love of Mitra, in the presence of Mitra, be very quiet. We will have the presence of the soul of the daughter of Mitra with us tomorrow for sure. You will feel it when she'll touch you. And many of you will mature at that point. And in time, I will explain to you the process and the system and the way it does. In a way, is a guiding light for your soul to be enlightened.
So that's an important part. In a way, it's a guiding light for your soul to be enlightened. So this is where we're talking about the enlightenment, making room for more knowledge. You don't carry everything, even though some people said, why should I learn anything new? I don't even use what I already know. So why would I want to expand my knowledge? But again, that's kind of a dim point. And many people want to say, as he said, I think in the last workshop, that they didn't feel anything because they don't want to acknowledge the work of their soul. They want to still be in charge. So this is the easiest way of saying you haven't felt your soul, or you don't want to acknowledge it by saying you didn't feel anything. It was just a waste of my time. So when you hear people say that, you may question to yourselves whether they just want to deny their own soul, or maybe they really didn't feel anything and they need to be in other sessions or so on and so forth to feel this love of Mitra and the rest of it. But much of it, I think, is the denial. Then if you acknowledge your soul, now it's time to start working with it. And maybe people don't want to work with their soul at this point in time. But as they move along, I'm sure they will in the future. We continue.
At the same time, we carry on with expansion 2024 to at least to bring a large number of you knowledge seekers to be able to transmute, to learn the art of flying with the soul.
Okay, and again, he's talking about when he says we're going to travel in the dimension of the universe, that's the dimension of energy as I see it at this point. And to be able to fly with the soul, again, this sounds like a dream state, but you're fully conscious of it. I mean, there is transmutation in just the energy state, because we saw people in the unit in Linz, their physicality was there, but they were somewhere else. So you can do that as well, to experience this in the energy of flying with the soul, but without the full transmutation of the physicality. I know at the end of this workshop, he said you can bring the two together inside the brain and then feed that and be somewhere else. Not maybe with your physicality, but in the dimension of energy, but fully conscious of your surroundings and interaction with those surroundings. You set a point, and somehow you can feed that point, and somehow you become there in the dimension of the energy. But again, I'm still learning about it. I've tasted it a couple times in the feeding, and I've tasted it in the reactor group, but I haven't been able to replicate it myself. As he said, to create flight, you need a plasma generator. And I think that's part of the system of preparing the soul of the man, the soul of physicality, to have the correct energies that this transmutation process can be done. So, but in the dimension of energy and the dream state, I experience the moving in a way without the physicality moving. And this is what I think he said at the end of this workshop, that it can be done that way as well. And it can be done, as I said, remotely. They have the system to create flight. It's called the plasma generator.
And sometimes in the first session, or what called by somewhere in February, March, we try to put you through transmutation, especially the couple which are there for transmutation to the moon. And many of you write to me, we would like to be one of those who gets transmuted to China. You have to register for it. It's still as part of the World Universal Transmutation.
And I think you can find that on the website, where they do have a transmutation or some sort of, maybe we should just take a quick look at that. This is a transmutation preparation sessions, but there are some other sessions on there. Okay, maybe it's listed under a different one. Okay, these are some flight tests. again, this one is another one, donation and participation in plasma flight test Mars. So if you want to go to China, you have to sign up for a different sort of program, and it's here. He called it the World Universal Transmutation. I don't see it listed as that way, but it looks like it's a different part of this process to me. Anyone have any thoughts about that? As he said, we just can't transmute you. You have to sign up for that particular event to go to China. Although there are two that have been picked, I think we know them or we've met them, and they're a couple and very close to one another. So maybe they will be the first couple, is what he's referring to physically transmute to the moon. But we'll have to see about that. Let's go back in.
We cannot just promote you there. We're still working on these bases, and we will carry on with this process. On my return to China, we try to organize the final phase and the final steps for this process.
And I know in China, they have to get the permission of the governments. If someone's coming in from Europe, they have to get the permission of those governments. System has to be ready. So there's a lot of still iffy things to be worked out before the China meeting, as I understand it. To actually do I don't think they're going to go outside of the rules of the government if they're not given that sort of okay. I'm sure China might be settled with it, but Europe or other countries, they may not be on board with it at this point. Now we'll hear another part about these headphones. I think it's at 126. So if we move this up a little bit, we will then move the video as well. Let's just see if we can move it a little quicker here. Let's just start here. And then we're going to move our video up to 126, and we'll start there with it. Okay. A little before, sorry.
And at one point, you all collapsed. Literally, the system went to zero.
This is about the headphones. So you may want to, it comes in a minute or two, but you may want to have this already set up and in a way practice with it. I know he talked about one headphone, he talked about two headphone sets, and then he talked about 4 headphone sets. So you'd need a splitter. I only have a splitter for 2, but he was indicating that it creates a totally different experience. I don't know if anyone was in those sessions with 4 headphones on, but it does create some sort of, let's just hear it.
Somebody made a huge noise and a lot of things, and then we saw the collapse and everything started back again. And in the same process, we added systems in the background, and we saw how we could, what I call, elevate your souls. We could see by adding one system how we suddenly changed all of you. Because even if one of you stays out of the frame, then the whole system goes to zero. Which means we had all you traveling together, you had all expansion of the soul. It's very, very clear when we work with these things. We don't estimate, we don't guess. We continuously monitor the process, we continuously watch what comes in, and we continuously monitor the expansion of the soul. And in that process, we have a lot of understanding what's going on to you lot. And we see some of you collapse. We see when we add one soul in, how the last one coming in bring a change. It's very interesting how how things change by you lot, not by us, and how you interact with each other. Some of you.
Now, what he's saying here about how you interact with each other, but there's nothing being said. It's very interesting how things change by you lot, not by us, and how you interact with each other, but nobody's talking to each other. So there must be some sort of things going on the soul level that the souls are interacting and they can see it on their system. This is what I'm thinking. Anyone want to make a comment there? Interesting how you interact with each other, but nobody's allowed to talk. Nobody is talking.
Maybe by now have received your first part of the communication bundles. The first batch of the first half was dispatched last week before we go on annual holidays. And we know 1 or 2 people have received it. You cannot use those with the teachings of tomorrow. They are not connected. They are no way connected. Those of you who have a Obiso head units, you cannot use it because your units are locked away.
So again, we have a communication bundle in the store. And there's also those who've received this Ubisos. And neither one of those, you cannot use it because the units are locked away. And he'll tell you, I know he talked about the discs again, that people brought that in, but I don't remember him saying it's time to use the disc unless he sent a private message to people saying to use them. So let's hear more about these multiple headsets.
So those of you who use the head units tomorrow, you need, if you have 3 head units, it'll be fantastic. If you have 4, it'll be absolutely beautiful. If you have 1, you still will go through. Those of you who have 1 head unit, headphone, just put it on your head, no problem. Those of you who have 2 headphones, put 1 in your ear, 1 on the back of the skull where the curvature of the what you call skull is, and 1 on the forehead, somewhere a little bit higher on the line with your headphones, and then you go through a totally different transmutation.
So you can see a number of different headphones creates a different experience for the wearers of these headphones. So you may want to prep for that if you decide to go into any of these sessions. As he said, what did he say here? If you have 3 head units, it'll be fantastic. If you have 4, it'll be absolutely beautiful. If you have 1, you still will go through. I had 2. And I did feel some things happening. So on the back of the skull, apparently on the curvature where it starts to go down, I think I had it a little lower. And then 1 on the forehead. And then the other pair of headphones was on the ears, right and left.
Those of you who have 4 sets of headphones, some people do because you work with the wellness center, you put 1 in your ear, 1 pair, 1 pair in the center, and 1 pair on either side of the skull, which means over your head you have 3 units and 1 unit through your ear. Those of you who have this 4-set facility will go totally through a different experience than those who have 1. Because our system is set up that way to support 4-way system. Tomorrow's session is so complicated but so simple, but it's set up to receive cosmic rays, universal rays, and through the soul of the man, transfer it into the physical dimension, or what we call subdivision of cosmic rays. We never tell you what we do. It's a very simple process. And this time, due to accident or by course of the thing happening, we have an operator who has no knowledge of the system in a way. His job is just to place systems where they should be, and then it's nice to see how we will work through operators. This has happened in the what we call wellness centers as new doctors are taking over. They're learning, so there are new operators into the system. For the first time this week, you will go through this process. And those of you who come in with the 4 headphones, you will experience something absolutely amazing.
So that's what I was referring to. There's different levels of experiencing things. Fantastic, beautiful, absolutely amazing. So we need to work on these 4 headphones and getting a splitter that will accommodate them. I'm not sure, but there must be a way, unless people are joining on 2 different cell phones. Anyone have a thought of this? How that would be done? Anyone seen? I have a 2 splitter, C into 2, C connection into the phone and then 2, but maybe they have one with 4. We'll have to see. They're not very expensive, but it seems that it enhances your experience. It's absolutely become amazing. You'll feel the expansion of the soul in a different way. Let's hear this.
The ones who are with the 2 headphones, you feel the expansion of soul in different way. Those of you with the just what we call different sets, you will have the different experience. You have to have a headphone to be able to be part of the session tomorrow. You can't go on a computer and just listen to it.
And as he went on to say, because it's to do with the soul and its precise positioning. And that's what he was saying. When you have the headphones in the right and left ear, it's been indicated that the soul is now trapped between the headphones. So this is what allows the system in a way to play. No matter which way you turn your head, up and down, left and right, or whatever, the soul is basically within the 2 headphones. And then adding more just increases the experience. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh, no, don't be sorry. Please come in. We want people in.
I send a link with a special splitter with I think 4 or 5 yeah, how does it call? It's in the
Okay.
chat. You can look it up if you want.
Okay, thank you very much, Steph.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was a question we had earlier. You brought the discs into the session, I think, these discs, Steph?
Sorry, again?
Did you bring those discs?
Yes, I do.
From the foundation. Now, he did say that we're going to tell you when to use them. Did you receive a private message, or did he not say?
He not say, he was forgetting, but I think during the session that he will forget it. And so I take my ones and try to have an hour with them.
Okay.
But he didn't mention everything.
Did you notice?
I know there was a question.
Were you noticing anything with those discs?
Not special. I just noticed, yeah, a little bit deeper energy, but not something special. Just yeah, a deeper energy, a more. It's different to explain, but not something else. Just the energy was more heavier.
It wasn't like you jumped out of your skin or anything.
Sure, I jumped out in the to the moon. No, nothing.
Okay, okay. Yeah, everyone has different experiences. That's what we were just explaining about this different sets of headphones. Were you wearing more than one headphone?
Yes, two.
That's what I was. Yeah.
I have the splitter with different, but I didn't try it. I have the splitter long ago, but I didn't use it because I just want to take two headphones, but I'm able to use more,
Yeah.
maybe next time.
As I said, I felt energy in my thigh between my knee and my hip on my right leg. And I said, that's unusual. It was the same sort of energies you feel in the head or the brain. And then about 20 minutes later, I felt my big toe tingling on the left foot, only the big toe, nothing else. I said, gee, that's different. But then I said, well, maybe new parts, additional parts are being added in. I was hoping my physicality was being sort of connected with the soul in a way to do a transmutation. But as a builder of any fine instrument, you have to be quite careful and put these things in just right.
And where was your second headphone? On the head, or did you?
Yeah, on the head.
it
From he was
Okay.
explaining here on the front of the head, and then
Yeah.
it didn't seem to make a difference where the mic was or the one without the mic was, but he said to put the second part of it where the head starts to go down or slopes down in the back of your head, where you go from a flat top down there. He said right on that edge or that corner is where it should be located.
Yeah.
Mhm. So I don't know anyone with 4 headphones. I would have to get another headphone or 2 just to have the 4. I don't have 4 headphones that I'm aware of. But this enhances your experience. So if you're going to put out the money to go through these, it would be nice to have the enhanced experience. But either way, you get through it. And little energies, little changes are being, you're being touched by those, or we're gifting you these things in a way. They're sort of building your ability as I see it. And again, this is just my understanding of it. I think they can do it from the center, even though the center's not in operation, but where the wellness systems are, they can do it remotely, as I experienced in the reactor group. I didn't practice much. I didn't do anything, but all of a sudden I was in 3 different places, not simultaneously, but one after the other, and then back at my kitchen table. Whether that lasted 5 seconds or 15 seconds or 2 minutes, I'm not sure. I wasn't keeping track of the time, but there was no concept of time when that was going on until I sort of came back into myself at the kitchen table. And I went to take a leaf that I had broken off at the lint center and put it on my table. I still had my fingers together like I was holding the stem of the leaf. And then, in a way, when I opened my eyes, but my eyes were open anyway, but when I opened my eyes or thought I opened my eyes, I said, wait a minute, there's no leaf because I brought it back in the dimension of energy. And I know Mr. Keshe explained that when people were gathering rocks on the moon and different things, they had to have a special box or to be able to, in a way, transmute them from the energy dimension back into physicality when you arrived here. So I said, that's what happened to me. I brought it back in the dimension of energy. But everything else was as if I was almost there with the physicality. But I wasn't. I was in that dream state or that dimension of energy or the dimension of the universe is what I think he's been referring to. Anyone else want to share anything else about that experience they'd like others to hear? Let me wind
I
it
can
back. Go ahead.
I can say, Mark, that when I placed the second set of headphones from my knee to the head in those things, it really changed the energies. You could really change it. I felt a massive shift. And even for about an hour after the session was over, you could still feel that energy around the head. So it was quite changing for sure.
And that was the first session you went into.
First session, yeah, on the 14th.
Yeah. Yeah. As he said, we're putting little gifts. We're giving you small amounts of these gifts in a way. This is
I suggest anyone that's playing with their cell phone and the splitters to test everything before.
Yeah, that's another thing I noticed. There was an update on Zoom the night before, so I got to do that. Very funny how, not coincidentally, these updates come at the same time we're going into the sessions.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, very, especially when you can't get your update to take. But it all worked out every time, no matter what. So, yeah,
Also, anyone that has Zoom on their at least I have it on my PC and the phone, and it will show on the Zoom on the PC that you're on the phone. So don't go switching back, because that means you have to log in again on the phone and reconnect, and that might screw up the system.
that happened to me. It said switch systems. And I said yes, and that was a mistake. So I had to
I learned that way the same way
Yeah,
you did.
yeah,
So
yeah.
left
But
there
it
one
is a good
time.
idea to test before, the night before the sessions, and especially to find a quiet place that you're going to be there for, you know, a number of hours. And what's happening is they're controlling all the mics in the background. So you could be walking around or closing a door or letting a cat in or out or something along that line, and you're actually, the mic comes open and now you're disturbing the others even though you didn't intend to, because they're opening the mics. So the mic was closed for a period of time and all of a sudden, boom, the mic's opened. And as he said, sometimes we actually close some of the mics that are open, but not because you've talked, because they're adding something else into it or running a different kind of thing in the background. It would be very interesting to see exactly what's going on, but even if we saw pictures of it, we wouldn't understand it, I don't think, at this point. So what I wanted to do was to go back to, I think it's around 57 minutes where he said he's brought this very beautiful gift in. Let's just see if we can catch it here. It's just a quick bit of words here. And I hope you learned your biggest lesson in the last 10 years. So we thought the MagRev was the biggest lesson. It is one of the bigger lessons. It's teaching you that you are the MagRev in a way, that you're the system that's been being targeted all this time. But let's just, if we can, let me back up this other one a bit down to 52 or somewhere close to it.
On the rotation of the Earth around the Sun. We go for a break and we come back. And I hope you learned your biggest lesson in past 10 years being with us. You understood who you are, where you come from, and what is to be your destination at your will.
So this is the biggest gift, where if you understand this, you've already gone past the religions, I think. And what is that biggest gift that the Creator has actually transmuted into you? And every one of these things that we see created, and even things we can't see in the dimension of physicality, the Creator resides there. That's why he's often said the Creator shows himself in trillions of faces across the universe. So what is this biggest lesson? Let's see if we can go back to the beginning or near the beginning and see what Mr. Keshe said about this. Thank you for providing us with this transcript. We'll go to 22 if we can and just hear a little bit about it. Oops.
Essence of the creation of the Creator. Maybe for the first time, I can explain something to you that brings a shock to you and maybe enlightens you. If you listen to the intro, it said, I am the beginning, I am the end. It said that we manifest ourselves from interaction of the fields in one given time, position, and space. But stand still and think for 1 second. Does not matter what you do in the dimension of physicality, how you look, how criminal you are, how good you are. That's your physical manifestation. Looking at the dimension of the soul of the man, you should have realized by now that in essence, as you transmute from one position to another to manifest yourself in the dimension, wouldn't that this transmutation will be the essence of the creation of the creator, which you call your soul? Transmuted from him, and from him in the interaction of the fields of the universe at given time and position becomes your soul and manifests itself as the soul of the man. Is there any difference, or is it just limitation of your own understanding that you are the manifestation and dimension of the soul of the creator itself?
So that's a huge enlightenment right there of your own understanding that you are the manifestation and dimension of the soul of the creator itself. And oftentimes when I've told people, and I quoted the holy book, I made the man in the image. Oh, that's not what is meant here. It's not that. It's, you know, it's something else. And they want to continue to deny it, I guess, to continue to be abused. But this is the biggest lesson in the last 10 years, that the creator has manifested as you.
And if you have not limited your understanding just to be according to your own comprehension of the totality, as you now getting ready to transmute from this soul to another position to manifest yourself in another shape or form, in another position and dimension, hasn't it the soul of the creator done so with your soul? Now you understand. I am the beginning and I am the end, because I am at the end when the soul of the creator manifests in the soul of me, and in the transmutation of me, I lead as a part of the soul of the creator to another position to manifest itself in another dimension. Now you understand. If you were looking for transmutation from this position, this dimension of physicality, to another position on the end of the physical life of the man you call death, and now that you learn to transmute at the point of the will, hasn't the creator had the will to manifest itself in another position, which has become the soul of the man, you? How can you let him down in your dimension of physicality? As in essence is pure, as in essence is the mature and in totality. And now we can understand, if he's so beautiful, if he's so just and correct, how much that soul suffers with the conduct of the physicality of the man, and he sees it's not him. And then you understand what the loving is, even having the power within it to change the dimension of the man in the physical dimension, and even the soul of physicality of the man endures all the pain and the suffering. For that child of physicality, for that soul of physicality of the man to mature. Then you understand there is no end, and there is no beginning, because the beginning is the end, and the end is the beginning. The soul of the creator manifests itself as the soul of the man, you. And then you, in interaction of the physicality of it, create the manifestation of your own physical dimension. In a way, as I explained to the children about the soul of the man and the creator, it's very much like a big dome.
Okay, so that's the way he was explaining it to children, like this big dough, and we're all part of it, taking bits of it, and you shape it and put it in the tray, and the rest of it, and not all the cakes come out. So apparently the soul of the creator is doing most of the work, and obviously there's no limitation there. So why do we think we're limited? I guess we put our own limitation on ourselves. And it's for you to take that limitation off of yourselves and become the manifestation of the creator, which you already are. But now when you go into another position in another dimension, perhaps, you're still there. You're still the soul of the creator in that position. And maybe perhaps you'll manifest the physicality if you feel comfortable. And maybe you won't manifest the physicality if you feel comfortable in the energy of that particular place. But again, a lot of mysteries within this. This is the biggest mystery in history. And it does give you an aspect of immortality if you understand it. There's no going to heaven and there's no going to hell. It's understanding this process of transmutation. And again, it's been hidden for centuries. It's a mystery of the ages, let's say. We always thought we could. We always looked at the moon saying, wish I could be there. Now, according to your will, you can be. But I think there's still a few more things to add in this process of understanding. Anyone would like to make any comments about this? Again, it's all about yourself and not so much what the others are doing. Okay, I think we'll go a little bit early today on the peace process, or we could even go to this point in the end where he said you can do it within yourself. I think it's around 256 maybe. Okay, yeah, let me move the recording into that position as well. Okay, so we're going to start about 256. And showing how you can do these interactions within your own brain without having to move the physicality anywhere. So this is another point, and we've seen it done in the units in Linz, where the people are still there, but yet they're a mermaid swimming in the ocean, they're on Mars, they're on the moon picking up rocks, but yet their physicality is still within the system. And I think this is the two dimensions we can operate at. And then if you want to move the physicality, you can. But I think this comes a little bit later. I think we're going to master this dimension of energy in the dream state first. And a few people will probably do a transmutation, but it's a process. So we're building, the foundation is building on this process and continue to add little bits, little gifts, more and more, month by month, allowing the energies to take hold within the person and to work with them.
You don't need necessarily to expand your soul beyond your physical boundary. You can expand your soul to the limitation of the fields of the operation of the brain inside the brain, and interact between the soul and the soul of physicality at that level. This is where you match the pain in the soul and the pain in physicality in the dimension of emotion. It's a sphere, expands and contracts. If you expand it beyond, you create an envelope, you go through transmutation. But if you expand it to the certain position which the soul goes before it goes beyond the boundary of the physical body, interacts with the energies within the brain, you create and you feel something and you feel it inside. And then it creates the emotion of the soul and emotion of the physicality, soul of physicality the same. And it touches you. This is mostly the time when man changes a point in their life. They call it the turning point. You change the habit of loving, you fall in love, you change your diets, you change your understanding of something. It's when the soul actually, fields of the soul actually interact, expand, but they don't go beyond. It just still interact with a given position, feel the strength of the science that tell you this is the where the knowledge is. You suddenly touch that field and you can speak all languages or certain languages. And without ever being there. It's recently in the papers, I don't know if it's been confirmed or not, a young boy, 2 years old, out of nowhere started speaking Chinese. Never been to China, never been in contact with any Chinese. And it's not something occasionally, it happens quite a lot. This is where the soul touches the information, and if the information balances, it becomes that point, that knowledge. You don't need to expand your soul all the time to go beyond the physical boundary to transmute. You need it. But when you do it inside, it brings enlightenment.
So wouldn't this be very similar to a daydream? You're doing all this really within yourself. But when you do it inside, it brings enlightenment in. And then what knowledge, what field you develop absorbs, connects to that knowledge, that point in space. This will teach later on. But it's interesting to know that we can do that without moving any of the physicality. But it's something we need to learn a little bit deeper in that process. You create a point and then you feed that point, as I understand it, with energies, and then you become that point, or you go to that point, perhaps. Again, I'm a very much of a novice in all of this, but I'm looking forward to doing it in the future, as you all are, and we all will do it. Okay, perhaps we'll go a little bit early to the Dome of Peace. I thought we'd play that. So you have quite a bit to play with your own reactors, as we're hearing more and more. And the system is just to basically help put different things into place. Okay, I just had to shoo the cat away from wanting to jump all over me. Okay, just a moment. Where were we going to go next with this? The question that Salamia asked, I think it's around, let me just see, I had it written here. I think it's about 138 or 139. So let's just go to that before we play the Dome of Peace. Just a minute. Sorry for these little interruptions. We'll go to about 138, and here this is we're going to play this before we continue to create this Dome of Peace. And I'll need to move my other setting here. Let's see. Okay, here we go.
Show me. Any other question, Rick?
Yes, we have another hand up here with Salamia. Would you like to go ahead, Salamia?
Yes, thank you very much, Rick. Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe. I want to share something with all of you and Mr. Keshe. Thank you, because for the first time, I was able to see everything flying during your workshop, Mr. Keshe, 3 years ago during the pandemic. And you are amazing. Your presence, the fields of your presence, made me to transmute and to see with the eyes of my soul of man. Maybe I see everything outside, but I didn't go in the universe. Only I have seen the church, and I see a light and a golden light. And I was thinking maybe it was my soul and the soul of Mitra which united together. So it's a good opportunity for all of us today to unify with the soul of Mother Mitra and to feel the totality, to become healthy, happy, to have the consciousness of unity of everything on this earth and of all our essence, because our soul is the reflection of Mitra. And now I have a question.
So it sounds like she experienced a transmutation in the dimension of energy. She didn't move for physicality, but she saw different things, experienced the church and other things. So she went into what I would say, just by hearing this, I wasn't there, of course, but it sounded like a dream state, but fully conscious of what was happening. This is the transmutation in the dimension of energy to me, where you will be able to play in the energy and experience things as if your physicality was there with you, but it's a dimension of energy.
What desire we can put all of together tomorrow or even this night in order to manifest the peace on earth, taking into account Israeli, Palestinian, and Russian, Ukrainian conflicts, and to make a common wish with you, Mr. Keshe, and what we can do together as a group, and Keshe Foundation in China, in order to get this peace. For this peace we struggle, because Mother Mitra is peace, is pure love. Yeah.
Thank you very much. The only way at the moment for human race we see peace is an end to what I call, not an end, but put it this way, amalgamation and dilution of the soul of those who think are privileged and call themselves Jews with the rest of the universal community. Because peace on earth will not take shape in full as long as these Bedouins calling themselves Jewish people find home or peace. The whole thing backed in the rules and regulations and the power of the Americans has brought this through the backing of the Jews and the Jewish community. And we will see an end towards when this what called misguided souls see themselves equal to the others. And as they have.
That's interesting. I might play that over again, and we see an end towards wars, but I don't see wars in there. Somehow it might have got left out. Let's just back it up a bit.
Has brought this through the backing of the Jews and the Jewish community. And we will see an end to wars when
Okay, that's what happened. We'll see an end to wars, and the AI translated it as towards. Let's continue.
this what called misguided souls see themselves equal to the others. And as they have done so, they make us, the rest of us, accept this unjust condition. And it's not an end to the state of Israel. It is, as I said, we've taken the love of the Creator from this bloodline. And has been from the time Moses received the messages and that abuse has come. As I said once with the religious leaders, we got cheated by Moses. He showed to be the soul, but the soul of physicality took over the soul. And that mixture stays with the dimension of physicality of the same, even though I'm half Jewish blood. It's not being a Muslim, it's not being Christian, it's not being whatever. It's just that if you look, this 4.5 million people killing like flies people, and the rest of the 8-point-something billion cannot even say a thing. We see if you kill one person, if you kill 50 people, you're genocide, and the rest of it. We have war leaders in prisons in Den Haag for killing less than a few handful of people, and we see they're killing in thousands, and 8 billion of us stay silent. And this is not just. It's not bringing an end to, it's just diluting it, that it disappears in all of it. And they see it as a right. Yesterday, no, the day before, I was sitting in an airport. And 2 of these guys walked in with big curtains on their head, shouting and howling, reading Torah in the lounge. Nobody stopped them and told them, can you shut up? Everybody looked away. These are Jews, they do what they like. Disturbing hundreds of people. If 2 Muslims bring their mat and pray and say, look at them, where does the difference has come? I was with a person with me, and I said, I'm ashamed I carry this blood in me. Because the abuse has got no limit, and it's the time to come to an limit. You'll find out very soon after the end of the Gaza situation, a lot of things will change for Israel. A lot will change for Israel. Netanyahu will be chased out of everywhere. He's hoping to be there, but he'll be chased out of. He should be submitted to The Hague. 10,000 children killed. On what basis? Where is the human right? Where is the protection of children? How come when it comes to these people, they can do what the heck they like with us? So, there is no justice. There is no correct, unless it's usually the beginning of an end. They have to uproot themselves. If we do it, we are anti-Zionist and the rest of it. If they do it themselves, they're out of it themselves. So, we got to understand And we got to be very, very, very careful in how we conduct the situation and how we are, because that's it. And anybody who wants to get to point of power has to sing their song, otherwise they get nowhere. And this is not situation in Gaza is not humanitarian, it's animalness. And it has to stop in one way or another, but stopping it doesn't save. This bloodline has come to be in the books of history, no one to believe in and to live it. And they have to do it by themselves. And they are doing it by themselves to themselves. And a peace will come when this bloodline has gone. All the American arms hold is back in the places where they have invested money. All the wars is where they have invested money. And this has to come to an end. Promoting their soul is the only way for them to walk away from misconduct of the past.
Okay, I think that's a good entree into our Dome of Peace as we intervene in all of this wrong behavior. And as Mr. Keshe said, when he talked about the knowledge seeker who reported him as a spy, he said, we're not going to go the old way, we're going to go the new way in the elevation of the soul. And that's what this peace process is about, creating the Dome of Peace. And let's hear from Stefania and then Shweta, and think about what you just heard about Mr. Keshe's new way about elevating the souls to change position. And this is what we're going to intervene with now, and we're going to create that position of peace.
I don't know if anyone want to read this Dome of Peace. Anyone want to offer?
I will
With a nice
read it
voice.
for you.
Okay.
This is what came in and what is now become a pattern. This is from a guy, I don't know him, but he says, please remember this Sunday and every Sunday from now on, till we raise the soul of this planet to a peaceful planet. Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers worldwide will spread the gas waters around the world at 12 p.m. Central European Time and or 18 p.m. Central European Time every Sunday at the same time as they choose which time to suit them. Thank you for participating in this greatest movement by the soul of the man to bring about the peace on this planet as the permanent feature of the life of this planet.
Okay, so that's something for your physicality to do. If you're not sure how to make Gans waters, you can go on the Keshe Wiki and you'll learn more about that, or ask other knowledge seekers. A very simple process. A couple of plates, a couple of wires, and a little salt water, and you can make a CO2 Gans, no question about it. Now we're going to go to the second part of the Dome of Peace, which is where we use our own reactors, or we use our energies or our soul to extend and spread this Dome of Peace.
Anybody wants to read the Dome of Peace? I mean, beautiful souls in here. Okay, I'll read this beautiful presentation of Dome of Peace. And the Dome of Peace is already here. All the knowledge seekers, truth seekers, lovers of humanity has built in a way, spreading the guns, loving each other, as shareholders. So I will read this as please remember, every Sunday from now on until we raise the soul of this planet to a peaceful planet, Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers worldwide will spread the Gans waters around the world at 12 p.m. CET and or at 18 p.m. CET every Sunday at the same time, as they choose which time to suit them. Thank you for the participation in this greatest movement by the soul of man to bring about the peace on this planet as a permanent feature of the life of this planet. Mr. Keshe suggests we add the next step to create the dome of peace with power of the souls, as we have already going through this with the 2 eyes. And we ask you to spread the Gans waters each Sunday. Now we give you a new path. Now try to unite each other's souls. Try to elevate the souls of humanity, soul of humanity, through your own soul to a level that no one can touch, the embodiment of the human race. So beautiful. Choose a time where all of you come together on the soul level in a state of inner calmness. At that time, don't spread the water of Gans, but spread your soul. Unite, and in time, we will make a new race out of the soul of man. And then, instead of doing it once a week, do it all the time. MD Keshe. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefania, and thank you, Shweta. And now let's use the power of our souls to create this dome of peace. And we know how much it's needed. We seem to go from one conflict to another conflict on this planet. As we said, has been reported, 5,000 wars in the last 3,000 years. So let's elevate the soul of this planet, the soul of mankind, and the soul of all other beings to create a peaceful condition. And we can use the energies of our souls to accomplish this. We'll leave as Mr. Keshe said, I'll handle the physicality end of it. You just practice using your souls. So let's take 5 minutes and intervene on all of these situations around the planet that's so disturbing to most of us to hear. And we're all hoping for an end, but the end is not going to come until we make this peaceful creature out of the man. So let's take 5 minutes of silence. Thank you for providing this background for us. And we'll start now. Thank you all for participating in this process, and we encourage you to continue this process. The Universal Community Council is actually learning this process as well, and you're invited to join them at 9 p.m. CET every day, 21 p.m. CET. The Universal Council invites the Keshe family and the Universal Council family in unifying at the soul level every day at 21 p.m. CET for the elevation of all souls and the protection of the physicality in the universe. And as Mr. Keshe said, this is not a day job. Once we get the human beings to stop killing and eating each other, then we need to deal with the vertical, our war against the vertical people as well as the horizontal people. But I think we'll have systems to make that easier. But again, they're in threat every day of their existence because of what we consider our right to, since everyone else is doing it, to kill and eat them. But again, this is not the ethos of the universe. We're learning, as he said when he explained a little bit about the CO2, if we can create an emotional connection to this amino acids of the CO2, as he explained in this, we can feed ourselves with it. So whatever you'd like to do, it's up to you. But working in this dimension of energy doesn't take a lot of energy, and it doesn't take a lot of work. But he's saying to try and continue this every day if you can, and you can join on the soul level. No Telegram, no Zoom meeting, just you become aware that at this part of the time of day, this is where we are building the Peace Dome worldwide and across the Unicos. So thank you all, and continue this. We encourage you to continue this practice, this understanding, because you'll be using your reactors in the same way in space, I think. So that's why we're kind of walking away from the MAGRAV systems and using our own systems to create new dimensions, new understanding, and bring changes where the changes are needed. So thank you all for participating in this process. I'm sure you're being thanked immensely by the souls that are receiving it. So thank you all, and thank you for your intervention. I think it's time to go to Alex's teaching. I think he's been waiting patiently, as he always does. We always give you the opportunity to come in first, Alex, but I think you made some adjustments on your system and so on. Would you like to play the disclaimer, or should I?
Mark, let me play the disclaimer, please.
Will do. Please take the screen when you're ready. And
Yeah,
thank
thank
you
you
for
so much.
joining us and enlightening us. Okay, we see your screen.
Disclaimer: the information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
And thank you, everybody, for being here on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. And I'm not saying that sarcastically. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon.
And thank you for sharing your knowledge and for being present with us, Alex. We do appreciate you.
Well, today, there are a lot of excuses for not being here. And it's not that we need more excuses, it's just that any excuse sometimes will do. Let's see if I can get this thing going. 1 moment, please. I just have to, we're almost there. We're almost there. Just a moment here. I'm going to do this. One of these days I'll get it right, Mark.
No, take your time. We're very patient. We're learning patience. And as we know, Rome wasn't built in a day. And the Dome of Peace will take some time. As he said, this is not a day job. So if you're faint of heart and you want to see it yesterday, we're gonna have to all work on this together to bring that change. And as the knowledge seekers become more enlightened and create that spark, it'll cover the entire dome of this planet and humanity.
Well, that is the plan, isn't it?
I think it is, but it's not a wave of a magic wand, and I think we'd like to see that. But it's going to take a little bit of time and work to complete this process. It's nearly completed, and it's closer than anyone could imagine, even those in the universal community. So we turn it over to you for more enlightenment, Alex, if you're ready.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for leading the pack here. As I said before, the Keshe American Knowledge Team is a very important meeting because we follow the Knowledge Seekers Workshop on Thursdays and then the Powerful Brazilian meeting on Fridays. And as we try and assist people from all around the world to understand this a whole lot better. So we continue. This is the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Teachings on Plasma Science. We're discussing basic transmission. Today's subject is perpendicular motion. And my name is Alexander. I am from Canada. And it's December the 24th, 2023. So welcome, one and all, for investing the time on for what is for many people around the world a very special day. They call it the holiday season. Let's remember something. Cancer, wars, hardship never takes a whole day. And so neither does life. And that's what this is all about. We're talking about basic transmission as an extension of the basic series. And today's subject is perpendicular motion, following what we discussed, the x-axis dimension and perpendicular rotation. So we have to understand that in the Knowledge Seekers Workshops, we're over a decade in transmission, over 6,000 hours of teaching. And that's just on the part of Mr. Keshe. I'm into my 6th year. And it's been a, long journey. there are many others who've come before us. And we're all part of this team. And it's a continuation. And some members leave and other ones come. And it's all part of growing, learning, developing. It's all part of creation. But somewhere along the line, we have not fully understood. And this is one of the reasons we invest so much time into teaching. So do we have this much time to invest? And so the answer is, of course, no. So we try and distill it down. And with all these teachings, we distill it down through a review session that we just finished. And now we're continuing beyond that because things have changed. We found out that we still have this hesitancy, what we call the donkey hesitancy, because it's the lowest energy state. And so, you know, rolling is faster than walking, and riding a horse is faster than walking also. And so we have to understand that faster is in the eyes of the beholder, just like beauty. And so what does it mean to be faster? And how fast is fast? How big is large? And how important is important? So the thing is that this is a decision we cannot abdicate. This is not something that we can pass on to others and say, well, you decide. We all have to individually decide. But the truth of the matter is we have decided. And the proof is that you were born. And if you think that is really basic, it's fundamental. And so all of these descriptions on how we were born were put together in the books by Maritapa Keshe, such as book number 1, The Universal Order of Creation of Matter. And then book number 2, The Structure of the Light. And then book number 3, The Origin of the Universe, which is kind of confusing because maybe that should be number 1. But physics has always been confusing. And so here we are, we have to go through this transmutation preparation. And so this is what's in the forecast coming for the new year. Looks like we're going to have 6 months of preparation. If you want to learn a skill, you have to practice. I think everybody understands that. And one skill that we haven't learned is to bring peace on earth. And then, of course, at Christmas time, this is one of the most important things. Peace on earth and goodwill to men. Well, one day a year is not enough. As we founded 305, One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace series hosted by Rick Raymond. World peace is very difficult to achieve. And especially when you find that those who position themselves in terms of power and authority find out that in actuality they're impotent. And so as we search for outer space, we're trying to figure out how we're moving on this plasma highway, because we still want to get to that pie in the sky. That hasn't changed. And all we have is this little tiny red dot in the bottom right-hand corner we call Earth space, which is part of our universe. But what about the rest? Why are we so satisfied with so little? And I think this is the problem, isn't it? We always go for the least when the abundance is right there for us, right there. So we find that the plasma highway involves a lot of physics, a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding how energy moves around. But we're still having difficulty with the transmission highway. But this has offered a new opportunity to understand something that has been appeared in the review series. We try to differentiate between the plasma science and the physical science, and to understand the difference between the physicality and the non-tangibility. How to identify each and what it means. It was very difficult to explain that. And as we're all groping for ways and means to do that, we're trying to find maybe alternatives or just in a different manner, just so maybe someone can relate more, or someone can relate better, or someone can teach more or teach better. But also another dimension has been added, and that is this transmission dimension. Because when we're looking at the universal embodiment, we had these serious questions. Is the speed of light the fastest transmission? And is it true that the faster you go, the bigger you get? And so we see that there are different ways to encompass this earth space embodiment. We have different modes of transmission. And we don't even understand how we got here. And we go through a whole lifetime not understanding. And we have the benefit of history, and we still don't understand. We don't understand the creation of the universe. And so we try to look at the universal order of creation of matters, where energy is always in motion, but it comes together. And so when it comes together, you see that all things work in combination. So as soon as you say that, you have to decide, well, where did it come from? And now that it's here, where is it going? And in which dimension? And how many dimensions are there? And so the fact of the matter is that energy is always positive. So when we put a charge on that energy, it's to indicate the direction of the motion. And so that's what we're talking about today, is the transmission of energy in motion. And we see this manifest in the cups of life. And let's remember, they weren't the cups of the pandemic, because life is all of life, all the time. So this gave us an opportunity to investigate our inner space, that nebulous point within our core space that was representative of our emotional strength. And how strong is your emotional strength? Can you measure it? And so one of the ways maybe was through this Gans radiance manifestation. So when we made these cups of life, we were creating CO2 GANs, calcium GANs, zinc GANs, copper GANs, water GANs, and amino acid GANs. But more interestingly, some were creating more than others. And why is that so different? What is going on? So we had to figure out how this energy is being transmitted. And so we're focusing right now on the x-axis transmission. And we discussed how we can slide along. And so in Canada, we like to play hockey. And it's spread around the world. And people understand that a flat puck slides on a flat ice surface. And so we can move by sliding. But that motion is perpendicular to the ground. And if we put a rotation on it, we find that the motion pushes us into the air like a helicopter. And so we can hover along. We can hover in the air, or we can still slide along. We can slide on the water. But we have to rotate another 90 degrees. So we have a flat airboat that slides on the flat Everglades surface. The Everglades being that preserve in Florida. But the motion is still perpendicular to the rotation, so the fan is on the back and it pushes you forward. And you just skim along on the water. Because if you had a propeller in the water, it would get gummed up. So once we put a propeller into the water and the water is clear, it pushes us along. And so it's still perpendicular to the ground, but the motion is perpendicular to the rotation. So we see a direct correlation there. Now, interestingly, when we go up into the air with an airplane, instead of putting the fan at the back, we put the fan at the front. And so that rotation pulls us along. But the motion is still perpendicular to the rotation. And if this seems very simplistic, it's meant to be. Because there's a lot of new knowledge seekers who don't understand the relationship between motion and rotation. And then we have this anomaly where we roll along the ground. We're still perpendicular to the ground, but we're rolling along on the ground. Well, we've resolved this anomaly. We created motors. And these motors turn an axle, and this axle is the input rotation and is perpendicular to the motion. So the output motion, such as the wheel, is aligned with the rotation. And this is very handy because we can also attach a steering wheel, and so we can guide this motion. And so we've been able to drive vehicles on the ground. Vehicles all shapes and sizes. But we run into another anomaly. If we are on a slope on the ground, we don't need a motor to move. There is no perpendicular input rotation. There's only the output motion, and that is aligned with the rotation. And if you don't put the parking brake on, you never know what could happen to that vehicle at the bottom of the hill. And then we have this other spinning along on the x-axis. We're still perpendicular to the ground, but we're spinning 360 degrees. And so we introduced a diameter, a radius, and a circumference, and pi, which not only determined the circle, but it determined the sphere. And yet pi is still involved. That little piece of pie that we're still looking for. And so we find that whether it's the surface of the sphere or the volume of the sphere, pi is still involved. And so we have these 2 feeding dimensions and 3 feedback dimensions. And since we're the observers, we're in the 4th dimension. here we are, we're only talking about the x-axis dimension, the first dimension. And so now we see that we have so many different ways to relate to that, that maybe that first dimension has many other alternative points of view. So it's still one dimension, but we have to take into account another dimension. But it's the same dimension. So it's a different point of view of that same dimension. And how many different points of view can we introduce? Well, this is the key point. This is the springboard to our future understanding. And so we'll have to get into that in the new year. But right now we have to deal with this soccer ball transmission dilemma, because a soccer ball is a sphere. And so it can roll forward, it can roll sideways, it can bounce up and down, it can do all sorts of things. And so we see that there's a perpendicular motion combined with a perpendicular rotation. And fans all over the world hang on emotionally to the outcome of their favorite team. And it doesn't matter if it's a professional or an amateur team. The interaction is the same, and the dilemma is the same. And so we'd like to practice the skills. And if we achieve very good skills, maybe we go from amateur to professional. Well, I never got a chance to do that. But we had a transmission dilemma, and we like to practice. And so we would go in the wintertime into indoor gyms. And we like to have physical exercise. But sometimes these exercises became physical displays of machismo. And so what happens is we would play these games, and we had a little net. You see the little net in the back with the arrow? And what happens there, of course, is that nobody wants to play goal. So we all decided to take turns, you see. So I'm going to finish off this session with two stories. You see, because the reason we didn't want to play in net is because there were two players, and we always wanted them on our team. But when they were on the other team, and when you went into goal, they would like to carry the ball as close as possible to you and kick it as hard as possible, thinking somehow that that ball is going to transmute through you and into the net. Well, one of them was a very, very poor player. And of course, he loved to kick the ball hard because that was his skill. The only problem with that skill is he wasn't very accurate. So frankly, rather than standing in net and getting hit with the ball and having a red welt on your chest, you should kind of step aside and say, go ahead, hit the target if you can. And since he was a very poor player with very poor control, more often than not, he would miss the net. It was a very effective technique of goaltending, I must say, and with no pain. But there was another player, and he was very accurate. And the problem was that he loved kicking the ball hard. And of course, we said, well, we all take our turns in net. He somehow skillfully avoided going in the net. And if we did kind of finally get him persuaded to go into the net, his stay was often very short. But the problem for the rest of us is that at the end of the session, we would all compare the red welts on our skin from his extremely hard kicks. So why am I saying this story? Well, if you recall, when we were talking about the hockey pucks and how the pucks would fly into the stands and spectators were getting hurt. The thing was that the slap shot would telegraph intention. And that was exactly the case with this one player that we had in mind. Because he would telegraph his intention, and that intention was to impale you with his soccer ball. So you understand we were just having a kick around, you know, just having fun for physical exercise. Now, I was an amateur player, but my father was professional. And one of the things he taught me was to never telegraph your intention. And I said, how can you do that? So a lot of coaches will tell you that you have to disguise your kick. Well, when you're planning a big slap shot or you're planning a big kick, it's very hard to disguise your kick. You're clearly sending a telegraph saying, I'm going to kick this as hard as I can, and I'm going to kick it now. So one of the things that I did learn, even though I was amateur, was because I had a lot of difficulty blocking my father's kicks. And so I had to learn a little extra. And I found that I got really, really good at blocking those kicks. And it didn't take much to telegraph that intention. And so professional players learned not to telegraph their intention. But there's another aspect to the telegraph that was more than just a kick, you see. Because I realized now that my dad was actually dabbling in the plasma science. Because he was very, very proud of the fact that he never missed a penalty shot. He was always the designated taker. Now, I can't verify that he's never missed one, but what happened before I was born, I was not a witness to, but after I was born and I watched him play, and no, he never missed a penalty shot. And I said, well, what's your secret? And he says, well, remember, you never telegraph your intention. Well, wait a minute, how do you do that? Why are you so successful and others are not so successful? Is there more to it than just disguising a kick? Well, he said, yes. You never finalize your intention prior to the kick. I said, what? You must be kidding. Why is that important? Well, he says a professional goalie can read your mind. Oh, I said, well, you know, now we're dealing in some really crazy stuff. Oh, no, he says, well, this is the whole skill. So if I predetermine my intention and the goalie reads my intention, he will manage to block the kick. And so he never determined his intention until as late as possible. before he kicked the ball, not allowing the goalie any time to react. And I thought about this. And of course, I had difficulty blocking my dad's shots until I added this little skill to my tool set. I still had a hard time blocking his shots because I was an amateur. But when I played with other amateurs, this was really easy. And so I'm talking about this gentleman who would telegraph his intention, where he literally wanted you to swallow the soccer ball. So what do we do? Well, remember we talked about the poke check, which is a skilled way to stop an attacking player in hockey. But it was certainly a dangerous way to block a slap shot because the flat blade would deflect the puck into the face of the defenseman. So with the advent of the curved sticks, this danger increased. But defensemen also introduced a curved blade, and that allowed them to deflect the puck into the stands with a spin and increased speed. And so the fans in the stands had to duck the puck. There were a lot of injuries. Why was he able to block it? Is because the players were signaling their intention. That is to slap the puck as hard as possible. And all he had to do was put his stick in front and deflect that puck. And that was an incredible skill. And when I seen that happen, I watched the reaction of the other players, and they didn't get it. They honestly didn't get it. Well, I got it. And I used this skill. And so when this player came to kick the ball at our goalie, I had plenty of time to get in there and block the kick. But it wasn't just my intention to block the kick. I also developed a skill to kick into the kick. Yeah, it doubled the speed. And I deflected the ball. I deflected the ball right into his face. And we had to delay the game while he recovered. No one wanted to admit anything, but all the players, his players and my players, had a quiet giggle. And I still think of that today because it was kind of funny, but it didn't minimize the number of welts on my body, but it sure helped me forget the pain. And so all of us are wondering, you know, is there a guiding hand? Well, in this case, the question is, was there a guiding foot? So let me tell you a second story. Because in that same gym, I was coaching 13-year-olds. And to understand rotation and motion, there was a special soccer ball dilemma, and this is the mastering of the half volley. We called it a drop kick. What it means is the ball has to bounce and then you kick the ball on the bounce. So you literally add the energy of your kick to the energy of the bounce in the ball. And we'd all be in a circle around the gym and we just do a half volley kick to each other. And this went on for about half an hour. And one of the players, being a 13-year-old, particularly, he was very short-tempered, and he was having difficulty mastering this. Now, those of you who have mastered it, you know, this is a piece of cake, but when you're teaching someone, it's very hard for them to understand. And so he was getting very frustrated because the ball was bouncing off his shin, off his knee, off his thigh. It just wasn't going properly. He could kick a volley, but he couldn't kick a half volley. And it was a real problem. And he was really, really, really getting angry with himself, of course. And we were very careful not to tease him or criticize him because that would only throw gasoline on the fire. But he was losing it. And we just tried to calm him down and say, well, that's why we practice. The whole purpose of practice is to develop a skill. Well, that advice didn't last long. Unfortunately, he took a swing and he completely missed the ball. He did a 360-degree pirouette. And in that pirouette, he was getting very angry. And by the time he finished his pirouette, he seen the ball bounce up again, and he kicked it with fury. He really didn't care where it went. But the problem was that he aligned himself underneath the basketball net. And as luck would have it, the ball went perpendicular to the ground, straight up like a rocket, hit the edge of the backboard, and came down straight like a rocket. Kapow. He had to leave the practice session. Now, the good news is he developed a very strong kick. He developed a very accurate kick. And he learned how to do a half volley. But he learned something else. When you learn lessons in anger, it's not really good to have wishes in anger. And when you're talking about the intention and telegraphing your intention, and is there a guiding hand or maybe a guiding foot or maybe a plasma guiding? One of the lessons is the lesson of return to sender. We need to understand our man space and how to deliver peace on earth. We're in the post-November the 11th era. in 2023 where we can have some choices how to seek that graceful space. That greater oneness transcending the limitations of nuclear science after 517 Thursdays in a row. Understanding the dimension of matter plasma, where we have the physicality and the plasmatic reality. And understanding that the physicality is part of the feedback process. And man is feedback dominant. That's the lesson. This is the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Teachings on Plasma Science, welcoming all the beautiful knowledge seekers. Yeah, there's a world peace treaty. Sign it. Sign it with a pen. Sign it with your heart. Sign it with your soul. But sign it with intention, good intention, and telegraph that intention so that spacemen, snowbirds, and sports fans can find heaven through the transmission of perpendicular motion with the guidance and assistance of perpendicular rotation. The notion of the perpendicular motion is a daily gift of the universal celebration. Plasma science needs to continue to be delivered daily, not once a year, in exchange for peace on earth and goodwill to men. Welcome to the new outer space age. Thank you all for allowing me to present.
Well, thank you for covering the beautiful game, as Mr. Keshe likes to refer it. Are you saying that this guiding foot or guiding hand is the same as our soul guiding us in a way? I was trying to equate it into the teaching, and I'm thinking the soul is guiding us. It's our closest friend, and it is a scout, and it is a guide, I would say.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, we can see it.
Well, I must admit now that, that was the extent of the plasma knowledge that my dad had. And I was quite impressed that, he had that point of view. But this is a business of telegraphing your intention. Where it's been dynamic for me has been in seeing when people tell the truth and people lie. When people tell you things that they want you to hear, they don't tell you what they mean. And can you see the words that they're saying? How can you see with your ears? And how can you hear with your eyes? There is a guiding hand. And there are lessons to learn. And we all learn them at different rates. So we have to kind of be forgiving. And unfortunately for that gentleman who received the feedback, it was by his own hand. But I had a intervention. But the player I was coaching did not have an intervention. He learned it on his own. And what's the difference? The difference is the first one never learned his lesson. He kept wanting to inflict pain on the goalies. Whereas the young player learned his lesson, and he learned his lesson very well. And he was a very deadly and accurate penalty taker. And I was very proud that I was able to teach him. But if it wasn't for his position under the basketball hoop, and I couldn't have organized it any better. I had no say in his positioning, and I would have never dreamt that that would be the result.
And this is probably why we're being prepared slowly. Slowly, we bring you into this process so we don't get hit in the head with the ball. I think we know what we're doing. Again, we equated that to the mountain climber or the young fella driving the car. Now that he's got his driver's license, he knows what about the road rules? Everything. Sure he does. Till you get out on the road and you find out all these things that you've never considered, all these interactions that didn't come through the class or your driving school and so on. So I think we're being brought in slowly to this process that we don't, it's probably for our own protection in so many ways.
Well, there is another thing that we want to point out here, is that we are not talking about something that is so exotic that, is beyond our reach. This is ever present in our daily life. It is ever present in all of our lives. So this is not something that we just kind of have to stop. Well, we're going to stop this world, okay, and we're going to stop the rotation of the planet, and we're going to stop all the events that are happening and all the celebrations and all the holidays. Now, you can't stop that. And so, as I said, many people, give you greetings and salutations and say, well, enjoy the holidays. Who are you talking to? Are you talking to the cancer? Are you talking to the war? Are you talking to the life? Are you talking to the sorrow? Are you talking to the grief? You're talking to the hurt? Who are you talking to? And where were you the other 364 days of the year? You always settled for the least? Why don't we just reverse the roles? Maybe today we should wish misery. And the other 364 days, wish peace on earth and goodwill to men. We don't even have to make that compromise. This should be a daily activity. We need to learn our lessons. And each of us has to own up to learning that lesson.
Yeah, that's another one of the lessons. You say we always go for the least, but man has to understand that everything man needs is free. And this is one of the parts we really haven't understood. If we understand it, the feeding is free. If we understand it, the travel is also free. And so isn't the wellness. But we have to learn to tap into these certain energies, but it's all free. May not be free at this moment to come into some of these sessions, but it's being developed to get to the point that it will be free for everyone to take advantage of it. So again, feel part of the development of the system as you join these monthly sessions. And apparently they're going to be much longer. So I think there'll be more work done in a shorter period of time, let's say, or in a longer period of time. But that's quite a long time to remain silent and just listen. But we'll get used to it. And especially as we start seeing the results. Would anyone like to come in and join the discussion? I'm not hearing anyone at this point.
It's a silent class today.
That's fine. That's part of the communication line. I know Mr. Keshe said we were going to have a knowledge seekers workshop where no one would do any talking. And we tried that, but I think they're going to try it again. There'll be some sessions offered. I don't know if it'll be announced in advance, but be ready. And keep an eye on your Zooms and Telegrams. I think we're ready to do it, but there may be a block with the system as well. In other words, some people, I know he's mentioned that in London, that some people are very close to achieving transmutation, but perhaps he doesn't want anyone to start before the timing is right. Until everything's been added in that needs to be added in. The same with the mountain climber. You think you're ready to face it, but when, as somebody said, when you get on that vertical cliff, now what do we do? So slowly, slowly, we're bringing everyone into this understanding of this transmutation process in energy dimension and as well as complete transmutation of the physicality. Again, this has been a mystery of the ages. We always, many people I'm sure have thought they could do it, but they didn't know how. And as Alex said, we're doing it every day. We call it a dream. We call it a daydream. We're in this dimension of consciousness in a way. And I think that's the part of the creator that's made in your image, or he's as you, this total dimension of consciousness, which doesn't have that physicality attached to it, but can manifest a physicality if you so desire it, or if you're comfortable in that position. So there's still a number of things to understand about it, but I think we all feel we're getting closer and closer as the weeks and the months go by. But again, it's a mystery of the ages to unravel these understandings that you are the creator and you can move as the creator moves. This has always been blocked, no matter who we talk to. You're just dreaming. Can't be real, or we would have seen so many have done it. But apparently there's only been a few. And even after
Mark,
billions
have you ever
of
played
years.
soccer?
Go ahead.
Have you ever played soccer?
No, I was a football fella.
What are the odds of you kicking a soccer ball and hitting the edge of the backboard?
Happens more often than the ones that go into the net. Oh, you mean as far as the basketball backboard? I thought you meant the frame around the netting.
No, the edge, of course you can hit them. The backboard is the size of a barn door as far as professional
but you
basketball
hit
players.
the edge just right and it returned faster than it was sent. Yeah, we've seen some of these things.
How many times do you think you'd have to kick the ball?
Yeah, right, 1,000.
So that was a very special lesson.
I was going to say lesson as well. So again, there's a lot of understanding of how to operate in the universe as well. This is part of the, not just the ethos, but as he said a couple workshops ago, how to actually, are you going to let your dog urinate on the lamppost, or are, there's so many things, different protocols we need to understand, and we will. There's no problem. I think the universal community is quite anxious to interact with us, and some of us are a little bit apprehensive about interacting with them. But now that we understand the universe is peaceful, there shouldn't be a problem with it. And we know that a superior being never abuses an inferior being, if there is such a thing, or the ones, let's say, with more knowledge don't abuse the ones with what you would consider less knowledge. So I think it's quite a friendly, accommodating place if you're in the correct behavior. And many of us will talk about this. I think we'll bring back stories about what we've seen and experienced. It'll probably give the others the impetus to do it, to want to see a different dimension and understand some of their capabilities. All right, anyone else want to step up, step in, explain something, ask a question? And I thought Marie had put something in here about the three wise men. I'll just share the screen for a moment. And of course, they're still carrying the physical gifts. And this is a very nice point to open up a conversation, I think, with people. If you're near a nativity scene, or everybody knows about the three wise men and the gifts to the Christ child and so on, but you can explain what these gifts actually are, that what was missed and probably continues to this day to be missed by the majority of Christians. And this is the thinking good, the speaking good, and the doing good. And you can't put that into a jar or into a flask or into a container. It's something non-tangible in a way, but these are the three gifts of the three wise men. And we're privileged to know those gifts, where most think it's just the giving in the matter state, but it's much, much deeper than that. That's why they call them wise men.
Well, I have another funny story.
Go right ahead.
In grade 3, our class was used to enhance the nativity scene in our school.
It was used to do what?
Our class was used to enhance the nativity scene in our school.
Enhance, okay.
Well, so someone would have to, represent, some of the people in the nativity story, and, I mean, we're not talking about the camels or the goats or anything like that. We're talking about the people.
So you were one of the three wise men.
I was one of the three wise men, yes. And so there was incense, frankincense, and myrrh. And, I was 8 years old. You think I knew what that was?
Could hardly say it.
Well, I learned how to say frankincense because that was mine. Yeah, had a, paper mache cape, all duded out, just like you see in the picture here. I didn't know what it meant. It was, I guess it was kind of a fun thing to do.
Yeah, it was commercialized. Obviously, this is where many of the stores make most of their profit. 80, 60, 70% of their profit is made at this season. So the giving of gifts was moved into the business understanding of it. And that's why people kind of feel bad if they don't have a gift to give or they didn't get the right gift and all these things. And I have to get a gift for this one. Why not give the gifts to yourself and then spread them? And people will, you can explain to them what these gifts are. Again, it's been hidden from Christianity from the beginning.
As I mentioned before, this was a particularly difficult thing for me because after paying for extra billing for cancer treatment for 8 years, we came to that last Christmas where we had no money for gifts. We had hardly enough money for food.
Yeah.
And we just had to say, well, if we were going to pay for surgeries, or if we were going to enjoy the gifts of Christmas, and we were forced to make a choice, Christmas lost. Christmas lost. And that was a tough lesson. But it was, in hindsight, it was a very good lesson because the reason we were spending the money, even though we were, either way, we were wasting money in hindsight, because the money you spend on those gifts is long forgotten. That the money spent on the surgery was ill-gotten. When they asked us what was the surgery for, and the running joke, of course, which wasn't very funny, was to pay for the trip to the tropics or a new Cadillac, or the doctor's wife wants a mink coat. But those jokes ended up being the truth. And then I did get the gift. I got the gift, and it was only 10 minutes down the road. And within 2 months, the cancer was gone. We're still talking about it today. Where's the progress? Where's the technological progress? We still want, peace on earth and goodwill to men. We keep dropping the ball.
But these three gifts, if you can internalize them, they're gifts to you in a way. They're a protection from many of the fields you may get into or create problems for yourself. I think this is a huge shielding if you can, and only you can open this up. No one else can force you to think good or to speak good or to do good. But these are the gifts that really were given to humanity, not just Christ. So it's been hidden from us, but Mr. Keshe has a way of opening up certain books at certain times, and I think he has a lot more books to open. As he said, he will return the stones of the Vatican to the Colosseum. And I never realized how many of these temples or modern day, let's say, churches or other facilities were built on older temples of Mitra. We didn't realize. And again, the shorter days and the longer nights or the longer days and so on, this was never brought into the discussion whatsoever about man walking out of the darkness of his own understanding. And these are the gifts that are being brought at this time of light, the season of the celebration of the light. It's enlightenment of you and realizing, as he said, who you are. And that religion, there's no place or no point of it other than to abuse the man for a lack of knowledge. So this is the time we're opening it up, but it's opened up all year, not just at this time of the year, if you want to receive these gifts. Just the way I'm seeing it. Anyone else want to make a comment on these gifts being given by the three wise men from Persia?
I just want to take this time to thank everybody for allowing me to continue these presentations, and I'm hoping you're enjoying these little trips. We are all challenged greatly, not only to bring peace on earth and goodwill to man, but also to teach, because we are all teachers. We don't need to have a t-shirt with, emblazoned with the words teacher on it. We're all part of the whole process. We're all equal. And so thank you so much. And let's all be wishing for greater success. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll see more and more of it in this year of 24 and continuing on. This is only the beginning of this entire process. So you're all part of it, and may you be proud of the work you do. May you be proud of the person you are, and may you be proud of the difference you make. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to play the wellness system again. This is what we're using in these monthly sessions, I believe. And he may even bring them into the free sessions. We don't know exactly what the whole plan is at this point, but it's all about the elevation of humanity and every other creature on this planet and across the universe. We know the Creator is going through a remodeling process in a way, or gifting new abilities to all the created beings to be able to transit between the two dimensions. So this is a real beautiful gift for all of us from the Creator. And we're just the sort of pioneers in this. That's why we don't see a lot of people talking about it yet or trying to understand more. They're still in the prison of the physicality, more or less. So you're going to be these light bringers to them when the time comes. As a satellite soul, perhaps, maybe even giving lectures or small to small or large groups, explaining more about this as they continue to open it up for themselves and then walk away from some of the places they've been frequenting, let's say, whether it be a mosque or a synagogue or a church. And this is part of the huge abuse of the man, and also part of many of the conflicts on this planet. So as we learn more, we walk away from these structures on our own. No one's going to force you, and no one's going to force them to close. They'll close on their own as they close shop because there's no customers left. And it'll be the end to cashing out your pocket and your soul. This is the process that we're going through. So be patient. It's coming slowly, slowly. We bring you into the process. So thank you all for joining us. I'll play the wellness system again and the final disclaimer, and the meeting will come to an end. Anyone else want to add anything else about this time and this understanding? It's a beautiful gift. And this is one of the first years I've really understood more about this season of lights. We always thought they were the red and the blue lights people put on their house and they decorate. It's got nothing to do with that. It's about enlightenment and walking out of our dark understanding of ourselves and the knowledge of the universe into an enlightened period. So we thank you all for being part of it and bringing the change. Anyone else want to add anything else?
Yeah, hi Mark, December.
Oh, hi.
I just want to say the splitter in the chat will not work, I think.
Okay.
It's only for audio, not the microphone.
Let's just click on that. Okay, this is a German thing. All right. I know Steph isn't here, but they probably have some other ones that are available. I don't think you would be saying it if these little devices were not available.
They're not.
What happened, Mark, was you have to copy the whole thing.
Okay.
And then paste it into your browser.
Okay.
But you have to make sure that when you do those, that they're four pole ones. Then if you have a 3-pole one, you won't get your mic.
Right. I'm sure we'll talk more about it, but it does seem like they are all around the head. I'm not sure. And especially for these, if you sign up for one of these sessions, that's going to be 6 or 8 hours. I think you'll have an enhanced experience if we can manage to understand how to apply them and get the devices we need. We'll see. I'm sure there'll be more explanation about it. So thank you all for sharing part of your afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are, for being here and bringing the change. This is, you're not here by accident. There's a reason for you being here. And we'll find more and more out as we start to see the changes manifest. In wellness, in feeding, in transportation, and the rest of it. Okay, thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
This is what you see is what is to come. It's the first time you see the Space Center Wellness Center. These systems can reach man in the deepest part of the universe. As you can see, the transmutation and transportation of the soul and the physicality is within the system. And you will see each system on its own. It can reach all conditions of unwellness of the body of the man operated by doctors. It is part of the space program. And for the first time we show what is to come. And these machines have been operating for past 12 months. We know how they work. And some of you who've been to LINS sat in some of these systems. Now they've been positioned as one of the first wellness centers in the world. Now you see the future of wellness, feeding, and making peaceful man out of the man. In this center, in the coming months, hundreds of these units will be installed. And more or less anyone in the world can reach. As you can see, there is room enough to add huge number, and the doctors will monitor everything remote. This is more or less the hospitals of tomorrow with no patients.
Disclaimer: the information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.